500 Doors, your real estate podcast. Speaking with industry experts in real estate buying, selling, planning, developing, wholesaling, investing, financing, management. If it's real estate, we're talking about it. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, an award-winning 6- and 7-figure real estate agent with over 2 decades of experience. Understanding real estate is a dream for many, that we, real estate professionals, have the ability to bring that dream to reality while building better communities and being the change we want to see. So our guest today is Keith Uthe. He is an independent mortgage broker based in my hometown, Calgary, Alberta, and he is able to work with all throughout Canada clients for their residential and commercial needs. And we're going to touch on this. Keith is a top 5 nationally and with Mortgage Alliance Canada. Sorry, guys, it's one of those mornings, and we're going to be editing this in post. Keith is also a real estate investor, Smith Manoeuvre Certified Professional, mortgage broker at High Performance Lab Coach, and a certified financial life professional. I'm telling you, it was one of those nights, and I think I'm in the International Women's Day hangover right now. Don't worry, Keith. We will edit all of that in post, because this will be available online in a few weeks, and it's going to be absolutely beautifully delivered. But I think we kind of got the gist of, you kind of know what you're talking about when it comes to mortgages and finance and real estate, and these are really hot topics right now. What I want to do is dive in. If you could share with us a little bit more of who you are, how long you've been in the business, maybe some cumulative numbers of how much money you've moved around and how many people you've served.
Absolutely. Hey, first of all, Kim, it's a pleasure being here. And if life was perfect, wouldn't everybody own real estate, right? I mean, so, days go the way days go sometimes, and you're just fortunate you can actually make a change to what just went on, but not everybody gets to do that in their life. So that's where, I hope that I can help people in that sense of being able to help them be able to see what's possible. And so, yeah, I'm a independent mortgage broker based in Calgary, and I am able to help people with residential and commercial mortgages throughout Canada, and have clients throughout Canada, from Newfoundland to BC to even to Calgary. I've done property mortgages for people. And what, for me as a mortgage broker, it's not just filling out an application and submitting it to a lender. To me, it's about understanding who the people are that I'm dealing with, what are their goals and objectives, or understanding what for them, their families, whether it's real estate investing or other investing, this is their first home, what the plan is, what it looks like, and really getting to the root of why they want to own. Why do they want to own a home? Why do they want to own real estate? And some people, it's just, well, I think it's cheaper than rent. That's fine if that's what it is. But now let's make sure you understand what it means to own a home. Do you understand what the expenses are that come with owning a home versus just being that tenant? Do you understand what what a mortgage is all about? What are all the different terms? Because what's out there is all you see is advertising for interest rates and those types of things. But there's many other terms in a mortgage that need to be understood, that are equally as important as just the rate, because they can impact things that you want to happen in your life in your future. And we don't want that mortgage to be an impediment to making that happen. That's where things like huge interest rate differential penalties come in, where people get held up from being able to upgrade their house or sell a house because things change. And now we have even bigger problems. So that's where I'm taking all my knowledge that I learned as a real estate investor, been investing in real estate alongside my wonderful wife, Nancy, since 2003, when we bought our first property. And then through, implementing the Smith Maneuver myself. I am a Smith Maneuver certified mortgage professional now. That program just came out in 2020. Robinson Smith created it following his father's death in 2011. He created this certification program for real estate professionals, mortgage brokers, realtors, accountants, and financial professionals. And I've implemented that back when his dad had his first book. I implemented that Smith Maneuver in 2005 to convert my own mortgage on my own primary home from being a non-tax deductible interest to 100% tax deductible interest on my taxes, thus creating tax returns in the $6,000 to $10,000 range every year. That's the power of the Smith maneuver. Then I further advanced my knowledge by becoming a certified real estate investment advisor in 2016, and then followed that by becoming a certified financial planner in 2020. And that certified, not financial planner, sorry, financial life professional. And the difference between the two is, as a certified financial life professional, I'm there to help people understand what the relationship is to money, wealth, and worth. How do they relate to money? How do they see money? What kind of messages do they have within themselves about money? And what are those things that are getting in the way that they didn't even realize were getting in the way in decisions they're making around money and wealth and their understanding of it, and their self-worth, not worth as in money, but worth as in their self-worth about what they deserve to have for their future and their family. And so when I bring all of that together in every conversation, that allows me to fulfill my life purpose and calling, which is all people are living a life of opportunity. And so through those conversations, I just want to be able to help people to see and know that there's an opportunity for them to be able to achieve what they want. Now let's put the pieces together and make that happen.
So you touched on a lot of things here, and there's a lot of things that we're seeing in the news right now when it comes to housing crunches. We already know that Canada currently is short over 500,000 residential properties. Short. We could not build fast enough. Yet, we're looking at close to 30% of our commercial space being vacant in Canada. So there's a real disparity there. And because you touch in both spaces, what do you foresee? And this is, like I said, I'm going to push you a little bit out of your comfort zone, but I think because you work in such a high level when it comes to the finance side, and we all know you have to have money first in order to make anything happen. What do you think are some of the opportunities that real estate investors can be looking at to help create housing solutions we're predicting by 2025, welcoming an additional 1.5 million new Canadians to this country. So let's say there's 5 people in every one. We're still talking, we're short a lot of properties, and supply and demand will indicate that housing prices will only go higher. Rent prices will only go higher if we don't create more solutions. What can we as individuals do to maybe help with some of the solution-based ideas that we're starting to see pop up in and around Calgary and Canada in general, like all across Canada? What are some of the things we can do, and how can we finance it?
Yeah. So let's start with, number one, we're part of some of the policy things that you're seeing coming out from the government, from the Office of Superintendent of Financial Services Institutions, known as OSFI. Some of the changes that they're proposing, by the way, there's public comment available on those changes up till April 12th. So any real estate investor that really wants to have their voice heard, make sure they go to look that up. Look up the Office of Superintendent Financial Institutions and look at what the proposed is. You can send an email and comment. There's 4 questions. You can send your comments on those questions, because that's going to change the financing landscape and how they're going to look at debt servicing and many different aspects there. We could have a whole nother show just about that, quite honestly, Kim. But
You just hit your mic. Hold on. You just hit your mic. Hold on, folks. He's coming back. I promise. You're still there. Nope. There we go. I think. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was talking with my hands and I hit my computer.
I know. I do the same thing.
So for real estate investors or anyone, this is their chance to have their voice heard, because it's going to make things more restrictive. That those new policies they're proposing, It's for public comment, and then we'll see where they go. But when it comes to things like commercial real estate being 30% vacant, as you mentioned, in different cities across Canada, in Calgary, we are seeing some of them have a little bit of a pivot where they're doing some different things within some of those buildings, whether that's creating some affordable housing within them, or whether it's creating just housing in general within them, or to even some more unique things. I recall hearing something about what was it called? I don't know what it's called, living garden or something like that, where they're actually going to creating some food production, fruit and vegetable type production within some of these buildings as a possible option as well. So, but for investors, so there's a couple of things. One, you can do everything you can when you hear and see about these things to contact your alderman or alder person and make sure that they understand that you want them to support these types of initiatives so that we can have impact in different ways. But two, for investors, if you're looking at purchasing property and it looks at one way and you look at the history of it, and maybe it is a property that has struggled with commercial vacancy, well, maybe then can you rethink what might be possible with that property in a different way? So if a property, for example, was maybe it's mixed use already and it has residential up top and it's got commercial on the main floor, but the reason that the current sellers are selling is they're having trouble filling that main floor. Well, maybe that's the opportunity for you to repurpose and create more residential units and take that over and rethink how that property is going to work as a possible solution. Before the show, you and I, we commented on being able to increase the amount of housing on just your own housing lot. If you own a house, by adding a secondary suite in the basement or on the second floor or in a garden suite or garage suite, and knowing and understanding those policies and rules and how you can have impact by creating housing in those forms and manners. Knowing how to take advantage of programs like the CMHC MLI Select product for commercial property, 5 units and greater, for maximum loan to value in housing by meeting their what they want for affordability, green energy, and accessibility. And you could have potentially up to 100 on construction, up to 100% financing on the construction with 50-year amortization. You've got to have some capital to be able to get in and do that, but those are ways that we can have impact. I mean, we've had 400,000 immigrants coming to this point over the last couple of years into Canada, but we haven't built 400,000 units. Well, let's say that there's families, so it's not 400,000 units. Let's say it's out of that we need 250,000 total families. Maybe it's 250,000 families. Well, we haven't built 250,000 homes, and so that's part of the crunch that. In Calgary right now, this is where stats, well, and this is where you have to be careful how you read statistics. Yeah. So if you look at, the Calgary statistics that came out from the real estate board for February, it says, sales are down this amount. Well, listings are way down. And if you look at our listings are the lowest since 2006. The reason sales are down is because there's not enough product for those buyers that are out there wanting to buy. I have several clients that I've got pre-approvals for that can't find a place to buy.
And we're backlogged because COVID, we couldn't get the lumber. We couldn't get we're coming off of this really weird cycle. But yes, 438,000 new Canadians were received in Canada last year. We're predicting 465,000 this year. 2024, they have put in place for 485,000. And by 2025, they're predicting 500,000. And this is based on what they put in place 2-3 years ago before we've seen what's happening at the southern United States border. This is placed on our programs within, international. This is not even, so Canada is currently, I just heard they did this whole thing on the immigration, and Canada is actually poised as the global leader for receiving and housing new for receiving and housing people who are displaced either through climate or war or economics, because it's seen as a safe haven, right? And
Yeah.
God love all the snow,
Yeah.
because that's what's kept us so safe for so long, is the weather is not conducive to be on the streets fighting or be nasty. We all have to be nice. We all have to work hard for just sheer survival, because the weather is counterintuitive, 6 months out of the year. So when we're looking at this, we know that food, shelter, education, and medication, these are the 4 pillars to humane treatment, to being a human. Shelter is essential. We were essential service during the pandemic. How can we, being in the industry of housing solution providers and helping these 2 million new Canadians who are coming into a very different to care for a home in Canada, very different than to care for a home in Texas. I mean, just the maintenance is different, right? How do we help guide these people on how to not only finance, but to care for the property, how to get into the property? What are some resources that people who have never, like, this is their first opportunity, their first introduction into the Canadian system? What are some of the resources? Because I figure you are the guy for resources.
Yeah. So number one is, when immigrants come in, we know that 100% of them are going to be tenants for their first year. 100% of them are going to rent for their first year. As if you're someone who is renting to that sector or are involved with communities within that sector, one of the most important things is that you make sure that your you are or the tenants are receiving a record of the rent payments that they are making during that time. Because if they're someone who is coming that does have access to capital for a down payment, what's important to them is that they have a record of that, because there are special new to Canada financing programs that can work for them, but they do need to have a proof of rent payments as part of the support to show that, because they probably don't have that established credit. So we need that proof of rent payment. So that's number one. Number two is there's other programs such as the first time home buyer incentive and first time home buyer withdrawal from RSP. They may or may not have RSP depending on their situation, but those are other programs that can help them be able to potentially get into the buying market side of it. And it's all these programs, as someone who's, we're speaking here to investors. For me as an investor, there's no greater joy than when a tenant tells me, hey, we're going to be moving out because we're going to buy a home, right? Fantastic. That's like the ultimate. No, we never like to see our great tenants leave, because it's usually our great tenants that are the ones who are buying the home, but that's the greatest joy possible. So if you can help guide those tenants towards, if that's something that, if you've got the right relationship with your tenants, you likely know that that's something that is a goal of theirs, and you can help direct them and guide them to the right professionals to help make that happen for them. And then guess what? Because those tenants that are buying a home, we likely know someone else that wants to go through that same cycle, baby, but they also might be a great referral for great tenants for you to replace them. And so it behooves us as housing solution providers to be able to create those relationships with our tenants so that they can have those successes too, because we're all in this together. And if we only look at our future as our own future and what's in it for me, then that's when the universe comes back around and slaps you and says, you're being selfish. Here's some things that happen when you're being selfish. But when you're out there and you're giving and offering, that's when the universe then comes around and starts showing you and giving you opportunities that you didn't even realize would even maybe be possible or could be a reality, because you're doing what's available, or you're providing what can be an opportunity for others.
Is there an association that if somebody, let's say hypothetically, because I know on the real estate side of things, for years, if my husband and I went in and somebody had a starter home or a condo, we would always ask, what are your opportunities to retain this property while buying your move up property? Because this property will pay for your children's university. This property is your retirement if you can do that. Is there an association or a space that small or single unit housing solution providers, landlords, whatever we want to dub that, um, is there an association, is there a place that they can go where they can connect with others that are working to uh, invest in real estate so that you can get the updates easily? Or is there anything like that in Canada?
Oh gosh. Well, you know what? There's any number of real estate investing groups across Canada. I'm part of several different ones, so anyone could reach out to me. I'd be happy to introduce them to any of number of different groups, whether they be specific to where they are or nationwide. There's some that are certainly national, but that's one aspect of it. But if you are involved, if you're somebody who's a real estate investor and you're involved with a special interest group, or maybe just in your own community, because there's lots of immigrants coming from your community, what maybe be Ukrainian community or Afghan community or Haitian community or whatever it happens to be, from some of these countries that are having some struggles right now, and we're seeing more immigrants from there. Being involved in those groups to be able to help share and provide information is one of the greatest things you can do. For me, I do a lot of business networking, and so I'm fortunate. I have many people that I have connections to in different industries. One happens to be somebody who has a business. They help temporary foreign workers. So if you have immigrant people that have come to Canada and they're struggling to find work, well, send me a message. I could introduce them to who I know who help people with temporary foreign workers. Maybe there's something that she can do, things like that. And that's where, for me, do I get anything out of that? Absolutely nothing, other than I get the joy of being able to say I helped someone in a way that's just completely outside of everything I do. But that's just who I am. That's what I want. And I think that's where sometimes when we put blinders on, and all we see is I need tenants, rents, and managing my property, and we forget about the people behind the money that's paying us the rent, and even maybe those who they know, and that's where we get ourselves into trouble.
Well, you just tapped on something that's really, really important: community. Um, how can we, as investors or those who want to become investors, how can we further build community for our tenants?
You know what? By just being a resource for your tenants when they're apply, if you're accepting them as a tenant, or even if it's somebody you're not, if it's somebody you're turning down for a legitimate reason because they need, the property isn't the right fit for them, too many members of their family for the size of the place that you have, but being able to redirect them to someone who's better suited, or a resource that's better suited for them, or their rent to income ratio is just way too high, and they need to be introduced to city housing people that they didn't know existed. In Calgary, it'd be like the Calgary housing group, and being able to say, go and talk to them. They might be a better place for you at this time, because your rent to income ratio is just way too high, and I don't want to take your money and have you struggle. Your kids, you and your family and your kids need to be able to eat and enjoy life the way that you should. So those are things that we can do as investors to help people, even who maybe aren't our tenants, or we aren't going to be our tenants. But then those that are create your own resource list. and opportunities. You know what? It's amazing what you can do. Um, there's ways that you can create opportunity for yourself and for others just by understanding many of these different things. I have I've connected myself also to home services um, business where I can offer not only for my tenants but to others the ability to look at better costs and savings on different home services, from utilities to cell phone and internet and home security, ID security, those different things. Yes, I that's a way that I can generate revenue, but I also know that it's a way that I can help people save money by providing them with an opportunity for something different.
You mentioned resources. What are some of the resources that you have? Like, what do you have on your website to help people? What do you like? Where do you speak? Like, what are, or do you have a YouTube channel? What are some of the resources that because you sound like the type of guy, you're talking about community, you're talking about paying it forward, you're talking about don't wait for the dollars to come in, put the energy out anyway. Um, what do you have in the line of resources for people?
Yeah, so for resources, boy, well, one my mortgage brokerage website obviously focuses mostly on mortgages, but it focuses, I've got a wide variety of mortgages there, whether it's
Yeah.
specialized, whether it's some special rate mortgages and rebates for frontline workers and teachers, to first-time home buyers, to real estate investors and the Smith maneuver and those types of resources. I have a financial playbook that is co-written with Richard Dolan, my mentor and friend. That's available through there. I have a first time home for people that are first time home buyers. I have a first time home buyer package of information to be able to help them understand, some of the costs of buying a home and the costs of home ownership, so that they can have a more open mind when it comes to those things. So those resources are there, and then a lot of other resources. They're in here. As far as some of the people as far as some of the people I know that I refer people to, whether somebody contacts me about life insurance or vehicle and home insurance or plumbing or electrician or a lawyer or printing or wanting to buy more healthy and organic type grass-fed meats or party planning, like just a plethora of different people that I've met through the business networking I do. And honestly, for real estate investors, if you don't do business networking is really one of the greatest ways to, one, to be able to build your resources, two, support local people in your community, but three, can also create opportunities that you didn't realize were even possible. And so that's, when it comes to those types of resources, if somebody contacts me and says, hey, do you know this? Do you have information around this? We'll find a way. We'll find a way. We'll find a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the conversation aspect, it is directly associated, those warm contacts, those when you look statistically, cold lead versus a warm contact versus a conversation contact, somebody you've actually engaged with, and the percentage of return of engagement it's astronomical between just cranking something through an online versus going to somebody who's actually met and worked with people. You mentioned a book. So first of all, I want to put out public service announcement here. If you are in the position where you do have a little bit of extra revenue and you are able to look at, creating a housing solution, do be involved, because there's a lot of different things coming online. Work live spaces that they're converting. There's commercial conversion. There's all sorts of things. We just need enough people who are willing to sit down with Keith and say, okay, Keith, I've got an extra X amount of dollars. I want to put it into investment. This is what we're doing, but somebody's got to take the lead. And why not you? That would be my question. Why not you? We can create solutions. We're creating space in this country for new Canadians to create safety. Let's give them shelter too. And we can do that. So you mentioned a book. So let's talk. You wrote a book. You have a co-authored book. Can you share that with me? Because I always find it fascinating
Yeah.
when people write a book.
So it's only in digital format. It's called My Legacy, the Playbook. And if anybody goes to my website, demystifyingmortgages.com, it's on the front page there. You can you can enter your information and it'll get sent to you. And that book really is the root of helping people to understand more about themselves and what they want as a legacy. What do they want their legacy for their life to be? And that's really what the root of that book is. And I'm fortunate that I get to be a co-author with Richard Dolan on that book.
Awesome. Where can people connect with you? How can they follow you? Can you just kind of unload all of your socials, your websites, everything, and be sure to spell them out so if somebody's listening to this in the car, they can hear the proper spelling?
Yeah, you bet. So you can connect with me. So Keith Uthe, KeithUthe. One, if you Google that, you'll find everything. But two, I'm available on Facebook. If you, my on Facebook, I have my personal page. Keith Uthe Demystifying Mortgages is my Facebook business page. You'll find me on Instagram at Keith Uthe. You'll find me on LinkedIn as Keith Uthe. You'll find me on YouTube as Keith Uthe. And then, Demystifying Mortgages is my webpage, and that's DEMISTY. I can't even spell it. I can't even spell it. Demystifying.
Okay, demystifying. We'll put it in the show notes.
Mortgages.com. There you go. I can't even spell this morning.
Oh,
It sounded like a great web name until you asked me to spell it out. But there's a purpose. There was a purpose behind that name, though, when I chose it, and that was because that's what I want to do for people. Is I want to help demystify what their thoughts and beliefs are around mortgages and being able to, because one, there's two different types of people out there. Those people that think they can afford this, and in reality they can only afford this. But then there's the other group that think there's no way they can afford anything, but in fact they can actually afford to make something happen. And by being able to help demystify what's in their head, we can help them come to that reality of what's truly possible. And so, my email is keith@enrichmortgage.ca. I've got, my YouTube, my LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
okay, but do you have TikTok? Keith, do you have TikTok?
I do have TikTok. I don't know that you ever want to see me dance. I do post.
I know. I'm with you, Keith.
I don't know if you ever want to see me dance. I might have to. If my daughter ever saw that I was dancing on TikTok, she just might disown me. So, but such is life.
Oh,
but it's fantastic. I just, for me, it's all about being able to just share more, and do and be more. My one of my trademarks is stay calm and mortgage on, and that's really where we are in the mortgage interest rate market and where things are. Yeah. Is if you're not calm, then you're going to make rash decisions that could be.
And that's what we saw right this last year when everybody was out there running and trying to grab a house. And now we're seeing, Dallas is down by something like, 20% from where people peaked just a year ago because they had that herd mentality. How much, how much do you think if the U.S. hikes their interest rates again, how much is that going to impact us here in Canada, do you think?
Well, you know what? I'm going to say more and more over the years, we have gotten away from being the little brother that earthquakes when the big sister twitches. And so there is even more rhetoric even now around the fact that don't need to stay in step with everything the U.S. does. Our economy is our own generating economy. Yeah, they're our biggest trading partner.
Yeah.
But if that
But
just because that trading partner does something doesn't mean that we are. But we have to look at timelines, like when did they start raising their interest rates versus when we started raising our interest rates, and what are the lag times? So generally, there's 12 to 18-month lag time from when you start changing interest rates. Well, Canada, we started ahead of the U.S. And so there's some of that lag, and we're starting to see some of those impacts peeking in and creeping in. I mean, look at retail stores that are closing in Canada, and other industries that are shutting down, and jobs are being lost in the forestry pulp mill sector or manufacturing. There's one of the cannabis plants, I think it was out in Ontario, it was shut down. It was a converted car manufacturing plant, turned cannabis, and now it's shutting down. Bed Bath and Beyond pulling out all of its stores,
Nordstrom's just pulled.
Nordstrom now announcing that they're pulling out all the different both brands. So these are things that we're only just coming up to the 12. We're just at the 12-month mark of the first rate increase. So in 6 months will be 18 months. What are things going to look like? The price of oil is likely going to stay strong because we have conflict between Ukraine and Russia still, and that's going to be a continued cause of higher pricing that way. Price of grain is likely going to stay elevated again because of that conflict as well. So these are all factors that are out of the control of our government. And so when that's something that they can't control, it's difficult for them to continue to penalize Canadians for something they can't. There's nothing they can do about it. They can't bring the price of oil down. They can't bring the price of grain down, other than to stop buying it, which means to stop eating, but or stop, so there will be, these things will have some natural attrition, but our inflation is likely not going to go down to the levels it was prior. It was interesting. I was on an investor meeting last night, and one of the things I said in the pre-meeting was this: is when we look at inflation, and through 2020 and 2021, we had negative inflation, and then 2022 we have this huge inflation. Okay, so if we normalized inflation from 2020 and 2021, where would pricing on those same products be now in 2023? Would we be that much different in pricing on things at this point in 2023 if things had continued on the course they were prior to March of 2020, when COVID became this major international disaster? And whether you're someone who believes in COVID and everything that happened or not, when it comes to inflation, that doesn't matter. We need to look at, if we look at what the trajectory would have been, how far off are we now from where that trajectory truly would have been at this point 3 years later? Are we really that far off, or is our numbers for inflation, is the pricing really close? But like lumber, price of lumber has come back down. It's not all the way down, but it has come back down.
And we've known, those of us in the real estate industry, we've known for over a decade that we are short houses, significantly short houses. Anybody that actually is in real estate and understands real estate and pays attention to real estate news, none of this is new. It's just the fact that we locked everybody indoors for 18 months that made it very painful and made it very real and brought it to the forefront. So is there anything that you have been dying to share that I have not asked? Because I know this is a very random conversation. But, I think in the real estate world, it's not cut and dry, folks. It's not cut and dry. What I'm hoping that you're getting here is that Keith is a resource, and a resource that you can ask questions. If you're a new Canadian, or if you're buying your first home, what's the percentage of investment I should be making every year to ensure my home stays in tip-top shape? How much are my taxes? What do I need to put down? Real estate's not cut and dry. It's very multi-layered. It's multifaceted. What have I not asked, Keith, that you are dying to share?
Boy, you know what? For real estate investors, being a real estate investor myself, I understand the challenges when it comes to financing that you face. And the other piece of that is a lot of real estate investors happen to also be people who are in business for self, not because real estate is its business and it is a business of itself. So there's that, but there's other people who, because they have their own business of whatever it might be over here, whether it be oil and gas contracting or coaching or event planning, whatever it is, they've got their own business, other business over here. And where sometimes they struggle is being able to take what they've got over here and turn it into investment over here. And so I also work with a lot of clients who are business for self and help them to understand how they can continue, one, how they can even get into the housing market if they're not, but two, if they are in the housing market and they've maybe bought some investment properties, how can they continue to grow and build that investment portfolio? Because there's strategies and there's thoughts that I go into with them that are so important. And one of those key ones is, would you rather pay non-tax deductible taxes, or would you rather pay tax deductible interest? And that's a whole different mind space and consideration, because we're taxed huge in this country. So that's why Smith Maneuver is such an important strategy for people to understand and implement. People who are business for self, understanding that difference, and being able to bring that to fruition for them. For those people that are coming to this country and are looking for opportunity to own real estate because it was never going to be a reality where they were from for them, being able to help them see and understand what's possible for themselves to do that here is a different kind of heartwarming joy that I as a mortgage broker get from being able to help that. And those are just those pieces of the puzzle that are behind the person that's sitting here in front of you today, humbly bragging about what I've done and who I am, but also saying it's here to be shared. And I'm happy to share that information and knowledge with as many people as I can. And that's part of the reason why I created the High Performance Lab for mortgage brokers. Through my brokerage, I approached my brokerage owner and said, I need to do this because I want more mortgage brokers to have the ability to have higher level and better conversations with their clients, to be able to help them achieve more beyond just being application fillers and mortgage submitters. And so that's why I created that High Performance Lab just over 2 years ago, to help mortgage brokers be better people for their clients. And so, those are all these pieces that for me come together because I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it's rethinking the role of a mortgage broker, rethinking financing, rethinking what's possible, rethinking opportunity.
Rethinking opportunity. And I think that's where we all need to focus forward in this world. We've all been shook up. Things have happened. We're all moving forward again. So rethinking opportunity. What faces you today may not have what was going to face you 48 months ago or 36 months ago or 24 months ago. But, see, luck is not luck. Luck is when opportunity meets action. So are you rethinking your opportunities, folks? Okay, close us out with a quote, Keith. I appreciate all of your insight, your knowledge. It's incredible. What's a quote that inspires you?
Well, I'm I'm going to preface my quote first by saying, so I've been involved in basketball as an official since 1989, both in the able-bodied world and in the wheelchair basketball world. And currently I just focus on wheelchair basketball. But through that time, I've been to many, many camps and did a lot of training in basketball officiating. And I met a gentleman in Florida back in 2002. And one of the things he said that has stuck with me since then is this, and that is, you get what you give and it isn't mine to keep. And that's the quote I want to leave you guys with, is just that. You get what you give and it isn't mine to keep. And that is, truly who I am. And that's a quote that's stayed with me, I guess, now for like 21 years.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much, Keith, for your time. Wealth of knowledge, folks. Reach out to Keith. Any questions on how to leave a legacy through your own real estate, how to support and help others create their legacy through real estate, or even just better understand the financial landscape of how you can create legacy through real estate. Until next time, this is 500 Doors, your real estate podcast. Thank you for joining us at the 500 Doors, your real estate podcast. Be sure to join our Facebook group at Real Estate Success with 500 Doors. Keep on watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know sharing is caring.